despair, but we want to talk about hope. And when it comes to hope, we need plans.
Yes.
Like, we need some answers. So I want to start with my friends who have been laid off, they've run out of savings, and now it's like, okay, give us a list. If you're going to have to start cutting things, what do you cut?
Basically, you start with things that are discretionary. You can't cut your mortgage payment if you've got that. You can't cut car payments, but you have to start with things like eating out.
Right.
A little simple thing. Eat out less. Pack your lunch. You know,
cut out the Starbucks.
Cut out the Starbucks.
No offense.
That's a big one.
But it's a big one. People go, I need it. Yeah. Okay. Well, what would you add?
I would add anything. We need to be able to be better at differentiating between needs and wants. And so many times we have, over the last several years, we've slid into one category, and that's not prudent.
Everything is a need.
Everything's a need.
Okay, but what if someone, like I'm taking the case of my friends, they've done all the needs and wants. There are not excess things happening. I mean, these are people trying to keep their house, keep their car. So they're talking about, do I get rid of auto insurance? Do I start letting my health insurance go? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Life insurance.
Before they would make any kind of steps like that, they got to talk to somebody who is a financial planner. Like seriously.
Well, we've got one here for free.
Okay, but seriously, they're not going to get in the next couple minutes all that they need. They need coaching. Then somebody to look at their whole life, you know, bills and everything, and coach them on it, because they could make some of the worst decisions at the most critical time, right?
Okay, but are there, I still want to know, are there like one or two things that you would recommend as possibly being the first?
I certainly would never recommend you cancel insurances, because that's the time you need it the most, is when you have financial crisis. That's why you have insurance. If you have lots of money, you don't need insurance. You need insurance when you have no money. That's why you have it.
However, you can make your insurance cheaper. You can raise your deductible rates, which is going to bring down the cost of your insurance. You can group it into one company, so they'll give you a multiple policy discount. There's ways to save money there.
Okay, now we want to get to some of these tips. Okay, we want to make a big difference in people's lives, and so what are some of the things that we could practically suggest? Try this; it'll lower the cost to live every month.
Well, the first thing that I think is absolutely vital is you need to know what your expenses actually are. You need to have a spending plan. Most people do not actually know what their monthly costs are. So the first thing is find out what it costs to live.
So list all the regular expenses, okay?
And that's a good thing to do with your teenagers, to start opening their eyes to the real world.
You can look at this as teaching your teenagers what to do in their finances. These are crucial life skills that they will take for years to come.
Yeah.
Great learning
I did that with my son Mitch recently. He's getting married in a few months, and we started looking at, he actually had the budget laid out in a spreadsheet. We were talking, he says, Dad, I can't make it. I said, well, we better start looking at it. And it was interesting because it was a great point of discussion. Right?
Wow. I mean, that's sobering. When kids who are trying to leave are saying, I can't do this.
But that recognition will change everything.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for people to realize that some of the things that, as you said earlier, Eryn-Faye, are now needs. You know, 10 years ago, we didn't have 4 cell phones in the family. We might not have had one. And now we have, you know, well, it's only $40 a month. But every one of those adds up. Right? And so we got to look within the family, what are those things that we really don't need to survive right now? We may go back in a year or two to having those kind of more luxuries, but we got to cut back some of those things.
And they're even, like, I like what you said about there are middle of the road options instead of all or nothing. There's because we even went, like, we've got a cleaning service that comes out for like pool, jacuzzis, that type of thing. Well, why not just do it once every 8 weeks instead of once every 2 or once every 4? So there are things like that. And aren't there a lot of options that you can work with your lenders?
At times like this, where there's so much crisis in the lending side, they are a lot more negotiable than they are normally in good times, because they're up against it with many, many people. And so they are going to be a lot more negotiable at this point in time.
Because I always thought, but this could be la-la land, that if you communicated and at least was paying something, that they'd rather have that kind of a person than the person who doesn't even open the envelope and
lives in denial. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. I think another thing is, you know, avoid impulse spending. Impulse spending is.
Are you impulsive?
No.
Especially when there's stress and there's you know, we feel that need to sort of satisfy the fear that's around us. Impulse spending can very quickly get us to places we didn't want to go. And in times like this, you just have to eliminate that stuff completely.
Awesome. Brad, Eryn-Faye, thank you so much for giving all these great tips to help stabilize families through this economic recession. Now you got to understand, these things we're talking about here, when the family's fragmenting over all the financial pressures, there's ways to pull out of it, okay? So understand that there's two options that'll help you through these times of crisis. One is certainly better than the other. The first one is option one, which you're saying, okay, what is one big item that I can just take out of my budget? As it were, you know, maybe a car, I'm going to unload one car payment, or maybe get rid of a cell phone. Now, that might be needed in some cases. But another option is what I call shaving the circle, where you actually cut a lot of things, you know, whether it's entertainment, whether it's personal habits like, you know, smoking, drinking, whatever. Understand that there's things that you can cut back in small ways. That aggregate total of those small changes make a huge difference and actually accumulate the same percentage of cutback. And if you realize that, these small tips will make a big difference in your family. And listen, come back, because we want to share with you the bottom line of how to stabilize your family through this economic crisis. Stay with us.